Hello, Tab Nation. It's your boy Tom, and today we're going to be talking about auto hotkeys, obviously, but more specifically, how to prevent words from being said or used in maybe video games or whatever. The reason I'm doing this video is because, with having a kid, they're playing online games even more so than like I did when I was a kid, and safety is always a concern. It's very easy for your kid to maybe tell a complete stranger danger that, hey, here's my address, here's my name. We don't want that. So we're going to talk a little bit of how to do that, mostly using just Hotstrings. So let's jump into the code, shall we? We're going to be doing V1, V2. We'll talk with the V1 first, and then just show the changes in V2. This is pretty drastic changes compared to most of the V1, V2 videos I've done, but nothing too complicated. So we're going to start with string case sense off. The reason we're doing that is we want it to capture a word that can be both, if they're doing capitalizing the whole word, part of the word, whatever, it's still going to catch it. Because you can put the caps lock on, do a word, and we want to make sure it still catches it. So yeah, so we're going to be using Notepad. Obviously right here, you're going to want to change Notepad to maybe whatever program or game you're playing, just using like that. And so it's still going to work in other programs, which I'll show and demo, but it's not going to work in that specific program that maybe your kid's playing. Or maybe you want to use this for work to prevent from people using certain words, whatever. But we're going to create a hot string. And a hot string is just the dots at the beginning, dots at the end, and you just put whatever word it is. They'll be able to type the word, but as soon as they push space or enter, it's basically just going to delete the word, which is why we have the return here. The word plus plus, which this is the name of the variable, word 1. Obviously, you can name the variable whatever you want. But plus plus is just it's a counter. So the first time they type in the word but, it's gonna go 1. Second time, 2. The reason why is just maybe when you want to later on check on how many times maybe they've used that word, so then maybe we can have a conversation and be like, hey, I see you keep trying to use this word. Stop. So I just obviously put random words in here that, obviously you would replace this with maybe like your name, maybe your address, parts of your address, credit card number, I don't know, whatever. But we're just using some random examples here. It's going to count each time that the word's used, and it's only going to happen when it's in Notepad. F1 is my hotkey. All that's going to do is bring up an input box asking for a password. You set the password right here with the user input. If it equals, meaning it matched, it's going to show a message box with the variables with our counter showing us how many times. So my password I just put in here was 2323. Obviously make it whatever you want. It doesn't have to be a 4-digit PIN. It can be it could be a phrase, whatever, like a regular password. And if I do that, then it's just going to exit the app. You can obviously delete this if you don't want it to exit out when you press F1, but just for the sake of the video, I did that. Alright, so let's go ahead and do this one. This one's called test number 2. So I'm going to go ahead and launch that. So here I am. I'm in Notepad++, my IDE. I'm going to type in the word but, push space. As you see, didn't do anything. Tummy, space, or enter. So we can do like USA, enter. Nothing's really going to happen. It's just going to work as normal. Now I'm going to launch Notepad. And now I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to type in BUTT, and as you see, it works, but as soon as I push space, it deletes the word. I can type in it a few more times, press enter, deletes it. Space, deletes it. So it's doing that. Now I can press F1. I'm going to type in my password, which is 2323. No, that's not my real PIN before you try. Push OK, and here's our message box, and as you can see, the first word was used 3 times. The other words have not been used. Push OK, and the program now closed. Like I said, if you don't want it to close, just delete the exit app, and you're good. So yeah, I mean that's pretty much it. But this is very helpful in preventing certain information accidentally being put into certain programs. All right, so now we're going to take a look at version 2. And here we put requires version 2, so it knows to use that. We're going to, once again, declare our variables here, word1, and we're going to start a count at 0, just like we did here. But the formatting's a little bit different, so nothing too special there, though. We're going to do here, instead of if when active with the hashtag or # or whatever generation you're from you want to call it, we're doing hot if when act in quotations and parentheses. We're doing that same thing here with the AutoHotkey_class notepad, because once again, only want this working in notepad. Now the thing that's kind of a little weird, and there's different ways to do this. You can do static, global, whatever. And static probably would have been better, but we're going to go with global. But global, inside of each one, we do need to declare that is global. What are we declaring? This variable name, or whatever you call it. And then we're still just using that word1 ++. Once again, that's just a counter that every time this line of code hits, add 1 to the number. So 1, 2, 3. Pretty simple. You do need to put everything into curly brackets here, because everything's going to be a function, unlike over here. That's one of the biggest difference too. Everything else is pretty much the same. The input box is slightly different. You can just Google search AutoHotkey version 2 input or version 1 input, and just to get the formatting correctly. But once again, password 2323. Message box is formatted just like this, and then exit app, we're just putting these at the end, the parentheses. Once again, if you don't want it to close, just delete this line of code. Pretty straightforward, pretty simple. But let's see that in action. There we go. So once again, I'll type in here. We'll type that number 20755 space. Works like it normally would. But now let's jump to Notepad. Type that same thing in, 20755. Enter. Boom. Let's type in the car space. So even then, that's a good thing to point out, is you can, it doesn't have to be a single word. You can put phrases in there, sentences, the car. But obviously, if they said like car the, it wouldn't catch it. You would need to account for that. We can do like USA. Hey, where do you live? I live in the USA. Or if they ask what city or street, put that stuff in. We're going to press F1, 2323. And as you see, like, it's hiding the password in case like your kid's overlooking you. But you can see I used each one of those ones. Obviously, you can format this a little better. It's just a simple counter. But yeah, that's done by when you do the input box. You're just putting in there that it is a password, and it's gonna, you can say like, hey, your input's gonna be hidden if you want. Just however you want to phrase this, or you can just leave it blank to have nothing really. But the password's gonna tell it like, hey, like blur out what I'm typing so they don't see your password. Yes. Yeah, I think that's about it. If you guys have any questions, let me know in the comments below. Hopefully this is something useful. There's lots of programs out there that do something like this, but this is just nice because you can customize it on the fly, have stuff very specific to just you, and you can make it work in one program or maybe multiple programs. That way if they start playing a new video game, you can. If you want this to work everywhere when it's running, you can just delete these hot ifs or the if when active there, and on version 1 here. Just make sure you also get rid of the closing part of it. And yeah, and then it will just work across the entire OS, so just keep that in mind. But yeah, customize it how you want. I hope you guys enjoyed this one. Very simple but very powerful script, and I'll see you all on the next one. Bye!